Welcome to another international podcast on Metallwoche. Today we are very proud to have Gerald Celente in our show once again. Gerald is the director of the TrendsResearchInstitute and publisher of the TrendsJournal, and many consider him as one of the top trend forecasters in the world. Without any further delay, we connect over to Kingston, New York to Gerald Celente. Welcome to our show, Gerald.
Oh, thank you for having me, Michael.
Gerald, there's so much I have to talk today, but first of all, we have to tell our listeners that you are coming to Germany early next month. You will be one of the key speakers in Munich during the International Precious Metals Commodity Show on November the 2nd and 3rd. You have been in Berlin and Frankfurt already this year, but is this your first trip to Munich?
It's my first trip to Munich, and of course I look very forward to it. My trip to Berlin was a life changer for me.
I know this. Yes, we discussed it the last time.
Yeah.
Gerald, we are all looking forward to see and hear you there. But before going over to Germany, I heard that you are first traveling over to Canada, where you are participating in the SEED event 2012 in Vancouver. Can you please tell us a little bit about this upcoming event?
Well, it's one of my favorite places to go to in terms of the event, in that it's not the kind of ticket that you would normally see. For example, Deepak Chopra is one of the keynotes as well. And it's really a more holistic approach, as I see it, to looking at different issues, in the sense that it's not so much one-dimensional, not so much business-focused, but business in terms of life. And that, to me, is really what it's about in so many other levels, in expanding and growing and improving not only ourselves, but the entire planet. So it's a place I like to go, a good event, nice people, and very varied crowd.
I heard that there are a lot of young people coming as well, and they are open-minded. I think that's the main thing, just to get a little bit other impressions probably and learn to discuss things.
You know, it's funny, Michael, a big fan base of mine are young men, particularly between the ages of, I'm going to say about 25 to 35. And they're really looking for new directions and new ways. And they like what we have to say because we say it without being disingenuous about it, in the terms that we lay it out there like we see it. We don't sugarcoat it. We don't take sides. As you know, I'm a political atheist. I don't believe in political religions, and I don't bow to political gods. And they're kind of fed up with the systems as well. So yes, a lot of young people.
That sounds very good to me, Gerald. On Monday, the 8th of this month, just a couple of days ago, you published the autumn issue of the TrendsJournal. In these 48 pages, you once again cover up a lot of stories behind the curtain, and it's definitely worth reading. Without giving too much away here, but the title of this issue, Gerald, is Lesser of Two Evils, and the picture on the front page cover shows two heads in just one body. One is the head of Barack Obama and the other of Mitt Romney, his challenger in the presidential election in the United States early next month. But that is not enough. Your 2012 presidential campaign slogan is, "Stay home, don't vote." Can you please explain a little bit to our listeners, especially in Europe, why you come up with this front cover and the slogan?
Well, just briefly, when I began my career in 1971 at a graduate school, I used to run political campaigns in Westchester County in New York, which was the most richest county in the country at that time by far. They sent me up to Albany after that, which is the state capital of New York, and I was the assistant to the secretary of the New York State Senate. And then I was in Washington, D.C. for several years as a government affairs specialist. And I used to put together political action committees when they were brand new for the chemical industry. So I have a pretty good understanding of what it is and what it looks like. And one of our chief writers, by the way, in the TrendsJournal is Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, who was the former Assistant Treasury Secretary under Ronald Reagan. So a number of us have been around and we know what it looks like. And it doesn't look very good. I'm not voting because this is an election. Everyone is saying it's a lesser of two evils. If anybody saw the so-called debate that they had on October 3rd, there's no American, the debate between Romney and Obama, There's no American I know that would call themselves proud to see what transpired. It was a debate between an empty suit and a stuffed shirt. None of them had anything to say. It was a disgusting spectacle. So what I'm saying to people is, how can you continue to support this? Einstein had that saying that insanity is repeating the same thing over again and expecting different results. Why would anybody think it's going to be different? Voting for a lesser of two evils in itself is contrary to any kind of conscious thinking. For example, it's a slogan that slips off the people's tongues, but does anybody really think about what it means? I ask you, Michael, would you marry, go out with, or associate with a lesser of two evils?
Oh, never, Joe. Never.
Would you do business with a lesser of two evils? Would you have friends that are lesser of two evils?
No, in the brokerage you have it very often, but it's not my favorite choice.
But you don't know that, in the sense that you're not directly saying, oh, he's evil, but I'll do business with him anyway. So why would anybody vote for a lesser of two evils to run their lives and run their countries? Because that's what it really comes down to. And as I said, I'm a political atheist. I don't believe in political religions. I don't believe in political gods. But I do believe in God. And the God that I believe in, I believe, would call it a sin if I voted for an evil, be it lesser or greater. So I'm staying home and not voting, and that's my slogan, stay home, don't vote. Because my belief is that if 40% or less of the people turn out to the polls, we could call this an illegitimate election. The whole system is corrupt. This is not a democratic process. That's only for little kiddies to believe. We have a nation here of 312 million people, and we're being run by a gang of 535 senators and congressmen telling us what to do, how to tie our shoes, and how to live our lives. And who do these people represent? They represent the people that give them money to run their campaigns. They call it campaign contributions. Any adult calls it bribes and payoffs. We don't have a democratic system here, neither do most of the countries that have electoral systems. They're all controlled. So what I'm saying is, let's break the system. When nothing is going to change, it's insanity to think it's going to change, as Einstein would say, by doing the same things over and over again.
Therefore, you are talking about the presidential reality show. But talking about the American election, we have to speak as well about the ongoing fights in Syria, the war drum beating from Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu towards Iran in the last couple of weeks, funny enough, in front of the elections, and the ongoing wars where the US and NATO are involved. And to round trip it up, the killing of an US ambassador in Libya. I think, Gerald, there's a lot on your mind here.
Well, there is, and I've said it before. Matter of fact, one of our earlier Trends journals, actually spring of 2011, we wrote about the first great war of the 21st century. There's a war going on. People are just waiting for a flashpoint, kind of like children saying that World War I began when the Archduke Ferdinand was assassinated at Sarajevo. No, it didn't. It began long before that by a bunch of psychotic people that led their nations to war, the most worthless war in modern history. So what is it about? There's war in Syria. There's war in Libya. That wonderful war that the wonderful politicians, you have them over there as well, the Germans supported it as well, taking out Gaddafi. Gaddafi wasn't doing anything to anyone. It was the richest country, and the people got the most of any country in North Africa than Libya. Nobody's business either. That's the prime issue. It's like somebody saying, I don't like the way your country's running, and we're going to come over and change it because we think we could do better. All it had to do was with oil. And the same thing with Iraq. You think anybody would care about Iraq if they weren't sitting on one of the world's largest oil supplies? And the same thing with Syria, with their sweet light crude oil, one of the most precious on the planet. So now you have civil war in Libya, civil war in Syria, which again, NATO is behind. as well as the so-called Arab League, or as I like to call them, the Arab Little League, dictatorships that are destabilizing that country as well. It's turmoil in Egypt. There's no solving the problems there. The Muslim Brotherhood is in charge. And a lot of people, and we wrote about it in the Trends Journal, are saying that it's really just another arm of the military. Same thing over in Tunisia. The people that fought the revolutions or started them in both countries don't have no say in either of those governments. And the brotherhoods have taken over in both. So you have destabilization. Riots continue to break out from time to time. And then you go over to, you're getting closer to Europe, and you go to Greece. And you look down what's going on in Europe. In Greece, of course, there's turmoil virtually every day, riots. How about up in Spain? A couple of million people taking to the streets, talking about secession movements. And then over in Portugal as well. You go around the world, and it's the same thing going on in many places, but just different variations on the same theme. Oh, I forgot Yemen and Bahrain. And of course, most of Africa, a lot of Africa, now there are strikes going on throughout South Africa. So what we're looking at is a meltdown. The first great war of the 21st century has begun, and it's a class warfare when you really get down to the bottom of it. Class warfare and also a colonialism warfare, going into other countries and stealing precious natural resources. And when we wrote about Libya and the killing of the ambassador at the consulate, well, when you look at that and understand it, you see that it had nothing to do with a kiddie movie about Muhammad. It had to do with foreign policy. And in all the coverage that you see, oh, it was Islamists, it was this, it was that. Could anybody say maybe it was also, just maybe, Gaddafi loyalists that don't like what's going on there? So between Europe destabilizing the Middle East and Israel now talking about invading Iran, we are on the brink of the first great war of the 21st century, because if Iran is attacked, that is going to be the flashpoint for World War III.
Gerald, we have ongoing conflicts between Turkey and Syria as well, and we have this in the press here that we are wondering very often that people are so sure that the attack is really coming from the good guys, what they call the rebels. I know you like this name very much, but you warned very early about developing currency wars, which will be followed by trade wars, and finally lead to the overall outbreak of wars, even world wars. Where are we heading for the time being, Gerald?
Well, the currency wars are now heating up. You're hearing it from Manteiga, the Brazilian finance minister, outraged at the United States and Europe, lowering interest rates and flooding the world with cheap money so they could keep their Ponzi schemes going and help exporters get their products out of their country and sell it to others because this currencies are so cheap. And of course, when you look at China, China continues to lower their interest rates, and the yuan keeps getting less and less value. So the currency wars are already heating up. And then the trade wars are as well. As a matter of fact, China trade is a big issue right here in the United States during this presidential reality show. Both Romney and Obama are attacking China for what they call unfair trade practices. So as trade continues to slow down, trade wars continue to heat up. Michael, we've seen this picture before. It was the crash of 1929, the Great Depression, currency wars, trade wars, World War. The Panic of '08, the Great Depression, it's on. The Depression is on. You should see what the poverty in America. Where we are up in Kingston, New York, this is a lovely, lovely place. As a matter of fact, it was the first capital of New York State. Very historic area. Yesterday was garbage pickup day, and the people come out at nights with their carriages that they've taken from the supermarkets and start rummaging through the garbage, picking up deposit bottles. I'm a New Yorker. I grew up in the Bronx and Yonkers. I know what this country looks like. It never looked like this before. We're watching the poverty increase. It's class warfare and colonialism. We've seen this play out before. It's the same timeline. The crash of 29, the Great Depression, currency wars, trade wars, World War II. And we're seeing it now, the Panic of '08, the Great Depression, currency wars, trade wars, the first Great War of the 21st century. It's already underway.
Gerald, I don't know exactly how you watch it and you see it when you look through the American public, but my feeling here in Germany is most people, they think Greece, Portugal, Spain, it's so far away, it will not trigger us. What is your impression in America?
Americans don't know where Greece is. They've heard about it, but Americans don't travel very far. And you look at the news, my God, it's stupid news daily. It's CNN calls themselves the most trusted name in news. I call it the CNN, the Cartoon News Network. No, there's no news coming out of the country. They know very little of what's going on. Most Americans do not know the riots and demonstrations going on in Spain and Portugal or Greece. They have very, very little information about it. They have very little information about the economics of it all, and they have no information about geopolitics and foreign policy.
You write about it, you speak about it, you are very often in the news. What can we do to get people more interested about their own life, about their own developments? You mentioned, and you are right on this, even here from Germany with the new ESM treaty, which is in place now, we give more and more power over to Brussels. But if the people are not speaking up on the streets, how should you stop it?
Michael, I've been at this for 32 years, and I have finally come to the belief, and again, I only speak for myself. The motto of the TrendsJournal is think for yourself. We don't tell anybody what to believe. And my belief right now is that the individual has to change. There's that wonderful Hindu saying, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. Anyone that's really practiced in anything knows what I'm talking about. You're really intent upon learning. All of a sudden, you have the teachers there that are going to teach you the best because that's where your mind is at and it gravitates to it. My belief is that when the people are ready individually, then it becomes collectively, and then the leaders appear. Right now, the people aren't ready. The people haven't found, to me, again, only speaking for myself and how I observe the world, people they're not in the truth within themselves. I'm alone in this world. Everybody I love is dead. I was married for a long time, divorced a long time, no children. And to me, hell is taking that last breath and knowing that you weren't the person who you claimed to be. So I would ask people to consider, are they the person that they claim to be? Do they have the courage that they believe they should have and they exhibit? Are they dignified in the sense of who they are and understand their place on earth and that no one is here to take it away from them or to tell them how to live it? Do they have the respect for themselves and respect for others and show it to others regardless of class or stature? Do they have the integrity to live by their word and be the person who they say they are? And the passion to carry out their convictions, for their heart to feel what their mind knows? And to me, when enough people live like that, they don't tolerate crap from morons that call themselves politicians. They don't bow down, suck up, or look up to these lowlives that have done nothing. And again, when I mentioned to you I worked in politics, it was the worst job I ever had. I used to watch grown men grovel all day long to suck their way up to the top. So it won't change until the individual changes. Having said that, as I look at it as a trend forecaster and looking at up in the catbird seat, as they say, and looking ahead and seeing what we're heading toward, we need very swift change of direction, or else we're on a crash course with the future. This is not a time for moderate considerations. I was reading just yesterday, the new report coming out from the IMF about how they've downgraded their assessments and are looking for a rocky road ahead economically.
Yes.
Oh, by the way, for those who don't know the true meaning of IMF, it's the International Mafia Federation. That's all it is. There is a new world order. It's the banking order. And as you would mention about losing more control to Brussels, it's just another central bank that's being set up. So when you look at the IMF cutting its growth forecasts and you read the language, and they call it a slow and bumpy global economy, and that the way that it has to change, it's all about how the world leaders are going to address these issues. Who are they kidding? What world leaders? A bunch of losers. Everything they have done, they've turned into crap. They keep destroying things. They're the ones that created the situation, and now they're going to fix it? What am I, 6 years old? That's what they keep saying. The same people, the world leaders have to get together and address this problem. What world leaders? Who are we talking about? Obama, Merkel, Hollande, Monti, or that central bank leader, Draghi? Wasn't Draghi, by the way, the former vice chairman of the European division of the Goldman Sachs gang? They're going to fix it?
Of course not, Gerald, but they have a beautiful guy in front of it. He should know how to solve everything. He is called Barroso.
Oh, yes, Barroso, the loser who used to be the prime minister in Portugal, right? Right. Portugal, the Portugal that nobody wants to buy their bonds, the Portugal that's racked in depression, that Portugal? Oh, yeah, and Barroso now calling for more unification, more sovereignty, putting more of the power under the hands of the imbeciles like him that have a track record of destruction. Who could believe this? But yet people keep following it, and the prostitutes keep printing it as though it's legitimate.
Just in closing, Gerald, we have to talk about the precious metals and the US dollar. With gold currently consolidating the more than $200 rally since the middle of August, what is your longer-term view regarding gold and the still world reserve currency, the US dollar? Is China slowly but surely taking center stage on the currency front and replacing the dollar? Maybe even with partly backed gold?
I don't believe China is going to replace the dollar. I think China is going to go through very difficult times in the future. But I don't think the dollar is going to be worth anything either. I know it's not, because they just keep printing more digital dollars, as they're doing over there in Europe with the buying up the European Central Bank offering unlimited purchases of bonds of troubled Eurozone countries. And China right now, they're responding to their slowing growth by cutting interest rates repeatedly and dumping more so-called stimulus in there. And of course, they're trimming reserve requirements. So they have their problems as well. I can see the United States losing its status as a reserve currency. Why would anybody want to hold it? Or hold euros or hold yuan for that matter? So I believe there's going to be some kind of a new reserve currency. It may be a basket of currencies, of all three. It may be the yen included, who knows? But with gold being a benchmark for all of it and having a place in it. That's my belief. I don't know if it'll happen, and I'm not forecasting it, but I can see something like that. And I see a place for gold, whatever the new reserve currency becomes, to play a major role in it. Of course, if you go to my Trends in the News features, and you mentioned gold going up over $200, I announced when gold was at $1670 that I was buying again. And my breakout point was that I believe that gold had to stabilize over 1660, and I bought in at 1670, and then my next buyout point was 1770. Of course, it's moved back a little bit from that. I believe if gold settles this week above 1780, that it's the beginning of the next bull run. And I believe in the bull run, and I am in gold for long term. I do not give financial advice. I only say what I forecast and what I do. And same with silver. Silver, it mirrors gold pretty well. It's been doing, better, and they keep changing positions as to who's running up higher quicker. But over the long period, they run in parallel. And an investment strategy that I like, that someone else told me about that I agree with, is he buys gold and silver every month. And when you look at the long term, just imagine if you had done that 10 years ago. Every month, every month, every month. Boy, would your averages look beautiful. So I believe in gold for the long term. I believe that the dollar and the euro, going into the euro, a dollar, or the yuan, is like jumping out of the Lusitania to find safe passage on the Titanic. So I don't believe in any of the fiat currencies.
I know, Gerald. Final question. Last time we spoke, you were still missing money from MF Global. Any change there?
No, because in America it's become a fascist state. It's the only punishment for the little people. The bankers are running the country. So John the Slime Corzine, former head of the Goldman Sachs gang, former senator of New Jersey, and former governor of New Jersey, he never even got called up on charges. Cat can't find $1.6 billion. Don't know what I did with it. Son of a gun. Wonder where it is. No. They stolen my money, segregated funds, and I had that money in my account to buy gold. And I lost it.
That is something what we see quite often now coming up. First it was MF Global, then we have PFG Best. And it really looks like that it's just a question how many billions can I take to just settle in a couple of millions. So probably that is a new game in town. But hopefully this change as well. Gerald, we all looking forward to see you and to hear from you in Munich. And I thank you very much for this interview today. That was Gerald Celente, Director of the TrendsResearchInstitute and publisher of the TrendsJournal. Thank you very much, Gerald.
Oh, thank you, Michael.